okay, if millionaires do it and I want myself and all my friends to be rich, we should start doing that too. So
I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to be scared of money anymore. I don't want to be in that state that I'm always anxious.
what is your earliest memory about money? And I have them write it down.
Money and words, they hold the energy. And energetically, whatever you say, I can't afford it. Or maybe you say, this is not my priority right now.
Money can be such a taboo topic.
Biggest investor in Uber Eats.
Yeah, exactly. I even have it tattooed on me. Thoughts are not facts.
Ooh. Welcome to the Worthy Soul podcast, and I'm your host, Lalita Si. And today we have a special guest, Azia, and she's your financial bestie. She's a speaker, founder of Her Daily Invest Club. And in this episode, by the end of this episode, you will know how to invest, build a relationship with money, and how to stop living from paycheck to paycheck, feeling anxious around money, and to finally become besties with the money. So welcome, Azia.
Hi, it is such an honor to come here and create this safe learning space with you. I feel we've talked about it even off camera. Money can be such a taboo topic. So the fact that we're making it accessible for people in your community online is a huge milestone for the overall collective. So for me, it's such a privilege to be here.
You actually inspired me to talk more about this topic because I went to one of your events and you're such a great speaker, and just to see what community you built and to talk about this topic because it has like a lot of people struggle with money.
Yeah.
But not so many people talk about it because they find it shameful, or they feel like once they in there, they don't know how to get out of it. So to have some people that they can talk to, or to have community that they can go to, it's just such a release because you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So you have Her Daily Invest Club. Can you tell us more about it so people would know a bit more about you?
So Her Daily Invest is Toronto's fastest and first financial wellness club for women. So to me, financial health is just as important as physical and mental. And that to me is how I've become more connected to myself, not only with my spending, but how I hold myself and how I lead in both my professional and personal settings. And once I understood this was a way of life, I thought, okay, if other girls were able to practice this daily investment in themselves, whether it's eating clean or it's integrating movement every day or checking their bank account at least once a month, they're more in tune with their decisions as opposed to being on autopilot. Because I think especially with money, it's so easy to do that. So what Her Daily Invest actually began as was a budgeting club. It's simply where girls coming in, just like a book club every single month.
Is that the one in the living room that you were doing?
Yeah, in the living room.
Crazy.
So there's this video online that I share all the time. And it's actually how the community came to be. Was a bunch of my girlfriends would ask me, oh, what credit cards do you use? How do you increase your credit score? Or how do you budget? And I thought, okay, why don't you all just come over to my house? I'll crack open a bottle of bubbly. We can have some cute snacks. I used actually the YouTube like 24-hour fireplace video, had that go on my TV, just create like ambiance, because money can be so anxious sometimes, right? And I said, okay, girls, everyone have your laptops out. For these next 40 minutes, I'll put on some lo-fi music and just budget. Simply look what came in and what came out. And such an interesting fact about millionaires even is that one habit that stands out of all of them they found in a study is that they actually track what comes in and out of their bank accounts. Some do it on a daily basis, some weekly, but it's that consistent practice. So I thought, okay, if millionaires do it and I want myself and all my friends to be rich, we should start doing that too. So after the 40 minutes were done, I said, okay, safe space. No one has to give numbers. Let's just explain what came up for us. Data always tells a story. What story are we living by, and do we agree with it? I always tell them when you print out your bank statement, especially, I'd come to the girls, actually printed it out. I said, go with a highlighter and go in. How many times did you take an Uber? Do you spend money on a gym membership? Where do you go shopping for your groceries? Do you spend money on people, or is it yourself? And what is it? And it's slowly telling the type of life that you may not be choosing intentionally, and you may just be doing out of default. Like when you're a student, right? You kind of just spend money on silly little things. You're not as intentional, but as you get older and you have more expenses, you start to wonder, okay, like how do I actually want to design the life I do? And money's a vehicle to that. So at the end of that session, girls were like, oh, I didn't realize I spent $200 on takeout. this month, for example, right? Girl, we're always there, right?
That was actually after the event that you did with Alicia.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. That was me like looking through my bank accounts, and that was like, okay, Uber Eats, goodbye. Like this is no bueno.
Right? And you don't realize it.
You don't
'cause
even
it's so
realize the
easy.
amount, you
Yep.
know? And then you look at it, it's like, oh, no wonder millionaires are millionaires because they're tracking where it's
Because
going.
they're checking where it's going. And you're thinking, oh, that $200 I spent could have been in the stock market. And I could have put that in like an S&P 500 or something. And that could have at least like doubled, right? So what began as something that I did amongst my friends in my apartment, it suddenly started to grow. And girls would be like, can I invite my manager? Can I invite my sister? Can I invite my friends? And I said, sure, but my tiny little Toronto apartment cannot fit everybody.
Yeah.
So I started to ask local cafes. I think when it comes to community building, it's also tapping into the local partners and restaurants and owners as well. So I did a few energy exchanges. I was like, can I reserve 1 to 2 tables in your cafe during your off times? And I'll invite about like 12 to 15 girls, and we would do that once a month, and then slowly started to involve. Like you said, it turned into investing.
Yes.
But originally her Daily Invest was just a budget club.
Wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing that, because, you know, those things, it's like a butterfly effect. You just never know. You just think it's a small thing, but
Yeah.
that small thing can change your whole life. And what was that point for you when you realized that I don't want to do this anymore? I don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to be scared of money anymore. I don't want to be in that state that I'm always anxious and it's never enough and money's just going everywhere. I feel like I just got my paycheck and it's gone. And I mean, Toronto is, let's say, expensive,
Yeah.
but it's still, there is a way to do it. So what was moment for you? It was like, okay, I got to change that. What mindset did it take you, or that thought, or what was it, one day or a couple of days for you to like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this.
That's such a good question. 2 things come up for me. One, it was an emotional pull, actually, from a pain point. And for me, I moved out of my hometown in Ontario, and I actually did my school in Dublin. And at the time, I was also working. So since I was young, my parents are immigrants, Chinese Filipino household. The moment it was legal to work, we were always working. You earn for your money was the lifestyle. And I remember I was supposed to be paying rent to my landlord in Dublin where I was studying. And I had realized there was this like gut wrenching feeling when I saw, oh, I don't have enough money. And the guilt washed over me. And the last thing I wanted to do was to text my parents on the other side of the world and be like, can I borrow a couple $100s? Because they came to Canada at such a young age with absolutely nothing. Low income family, they really built themselves from the ground up. And I felt for me, being their daughter who had the privilege to be born in Canada, and they've helped give me the education, and also they want me to be happy. They allowed and supported me to go to this amazing university in Ireland. I thought, oh shit, I don't ever want to be in this position where I feel I have to ask more of them because they've given so much to me. So I thought to myself, okay, I got to figure out how to make more money, or something needs to happen, because I never want this feeling again of looking at my bank account and seeing zero and I can't pay for essential things. So that would be the first emotional pull of, okay, it's time for me to get my shit together. Now, the second thing, and I think this was the trajectory to where we are now, was that after graduation, I loved living abroad. I became a digital nomad. I started to do social media management, started to create ads for clients, got better at content. And I had moved to Spain because my partner was also doing his schooling there. And something different about Spain, which we all know if you ever go to Europe, specifically anywhere in Spain, it's a lot cheaper out there.
It is
right?
indeed.
Cost of living is lower than what we're used to in Canada.
Literally.
And for rent, for example, it was €200, groceries.
I was joking around just for a second. I went to Europe as well, and there were like 5 people, and the bill was like the parking for like in Toronto.
No, stop.
And I was like, literally, you just paid that much, and here you just pay for the parking. Definitely the difference, you know?
Same.
Yeah.
It was cultural shock for me when I went to LCBO, and I was like, tell me why I have to spend $15 for a bottle of wine, where it could be €2 in a carton at a grocery store back in Madrid.
Making a new business.
I was like, what is this? Like, huge cultural shock, right? So that's why it was interesting, was that when I was doing all this remote work, I was earning in USD. So I was comfortably living when I was in Spain. And that was when I noticed, okay, growing up, especially with the Asian immigrant household, we always focused on frugality, spending less. We never focused, though, on earning more. And living in Spain was the first time where I noticed this gap between the bigger the gap was between how much I earned and how much I spent, the wealthier I got. The more my net worth started to increase. Because if you think about it, when you live below your means, right, but you increase how much you earn, a lot of the time people think the issue is I just need to be making more money. It's actually a lot of how can I reduce the amount of spending that I do, manage it better, and increase my income at the same time. Wow. So that's the biggest difference. And really great example I see is person A making $200K a year. To a lot of people, they're like, okay, that's a decent amount of money. That's their goal. However, if they're spending, though, $150K per year, and you're only left with 50, in comparison to, let's say, someone that earns $90K, but they're only spending $20K, they have $70K left at the end of the year. Who's richer in the end of the day? Person B. Even though they're earning less, they're also spending less. So there's more of a bigger gap. So once I figured that out in Spain, I was like, okay, if I come to Toronto, I can't be used to the same way that I'm earning. How can I increase that, but even reduce my spending more? And there's a lot of fun ways I teach my girls, like, to reduce their costs in Toronto and that are more sustainable as well for the environment. So always thinking about, yes, how can I make more money, but also how can I reduce my monthly expenses and spending?
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's such a shift in the mindset, because there's lack mindset and abundance mindset, and there's so many limiting beliefs around money that we think a certain way. But I've heard this phrase that for rich and the millionaires, that they never spend the money that they earn. They spend the money that they've invested, and that passive income, then they do whatever they want with that money. But the actual money that they use, they more invest into it. So what would be one practical thing that you would suggest to people? What would it mean to live beyond, like, below their means? Like, how can they start taking that step other than just, becoming more aware of in and out? What would be the next step for them to see? Is like, okay, now I want my money to work for me, not me working for the money.
So like you said, first finding out your benchmark is the most important thing, because you don't know how much to reduce your spending if you don't even know what you're spending in the first place. So number one would be, I tell people, print out at least 3 to 6 months worth of bank statements and literally start to make the separation. What is your essential cost of living? And then what is your non-essential? So you're going out, your takeout, dining. And then what you want to look at is, okay, based on how much it costs to just fully live, so rent, groceries, and how much I earn, what is the remaining? So a lot of the time people think, oh, all the remaining is just my fun money. How we like to do it, and I got this inspiration by a creator called Call to Leap, Steve. He has a lot of great resources, but he gamifies it. So there's different levels. I like to break it down into 3 levels. So level 0 is every single time you get a paycheck, you pay off all your living expenses and then you spend everything. So nothing is being invested, nothing's being saved. The next step is practicing 10 to 20%. So it's as simple as, and I have this in my budgeting templates that I teach the girls, what is the actual amount of 10% of your paycheck after you've paid off your living expenses? And you ask yourself, okay, if I can put 10% away first, then I can do my spending. Practice that for a couple months. See how that feels. Level 2 would be 20 to 50%. So it's a little bit of a bigger jump, but are you able to put away 20 to 50% in your investments first? And then the remaining money can be spending. Now, the more intense ones are people who are able to take 50% plus into their savings and investments. So it's breaking it down, like what exactly is the goal number for me to slowly get the habit of paying myself first. And then you do the fun money later. Because I think no one really talks about treating investing and saving just as important as essential living expenses because we're not taught to save or invest.
Exactly. Wow, that's amazing perspective. And what comes to me, I'm big on identity shifting. And I know that money, and what I love about what you teach the community is that money, it's not just the money. It's like a whole system that includes your health, your what you eating, and the people that surround you. So who did you have to stop being or be in order to step into that, not to say that irresponsible person to responsible, but still into that person that actually is good with money? And what were the habits that you stopped doing that you felt were the biggest, like made the biggest difference in your life? And you're like, okay, now I can see I'm more in control of that. Or the mindset shift that you did is like, okay, this is more in control now that I feel.
Oh, that's such a good question. For me, it was two parts. So the first one was not spending all my money at once. So for me, I come from a very people pleasing tendency culture, specifically on the Filipino side. Like we love to give.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life where I would always grab the paycheck when it was dinner with my friends. I'd be like, guys, it's on me. Or my sibling wanted like this maybe concert tickets or something for Christmas. I'd be like, well, oh, I love them so much. Like, yeah, I'll just get it for you, you know? And a part of me, I think it comes from that also Chinese background of like out of respect, it's on me. And so there was a lot of cultural narratives I really had to shift, especially being oldest daughter. I feel like when you're the elderly in any lineage, most of the time you're like, I got you guys covered. This is my way of showing love. This is my love language. And the irony is I wasn't putting that same amount of love and investment back into myself. So here I was dropping bills for other people because I thought it was my way of showing them love, where in actuality, like, nor was I giving that money back into myself or exploring other ways of showing them love, whether it's like just sending them a text, being like, hey, I was thinking of you today, or actually just being like, you know what? Are you okay with splitting the bill? And as silly as that sounds to me, that I didn't realize that was a cultural limited belief and identity that I had hung on to just watching my parents go about that whenever we did family outings, for example, or they took friends out to dinner. I'd always watch them like tap the card and be like, it's on me. But I think it's so important to be able to set those boundaries and not just give when it comes to money, especially to other people. A lot of it is, am I giving back to myself?
Exactly.
And I will say the second thing that really changed was actually investing in a mentor. And I know it's interesting because a lot of people think, especially with coaching businesses these days, I have some people who've also done the same and they feel they didn't get the most out of the program. For me, I did actually invest in a mentor specifically about being a creator because I had seen a lot of people who talked about how much money they were making through brand partnerships and deals. And I thought, okay, I want to take my income to the next level now that I've mastered keeping my living below means as like a daily and monthly practice. So learning from people who are earning 10 times more than me has been the hugest leap I've ever taken for myself, and has helped me improve my learning.
Wow, that's amazing. And just to add to the first point that you made, even what came up to me, the gifts for a birthday as well. You know, sometimes you would give this fancy gift to someone else,
Yeah.
guilty. And then when I go somewhere and buy something for myself, sometimes I'm looking at that 50 or $100, and then I'm like, I don't know, should I do it or should I not? It's like we always doing that for others, but never for ourselves. So it is part of love and self-love. But I see the self-love not just loving yourself and buying everything. It's also, you know what? I believe that it's better for myself to invest that money because I know that it's better for me. It's like you have a kid and it doesn't want to put on the jacket, but it's cold outside. The kid doesn't want it, but you know it's better for the kid.
Yeah.
So it's same part of self-love. Is you know that you got to invest in yourself to take care of your future self, which will
Exactly.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
And investing in the mentor and people that already done all of those mistakes,
Yep.
all of those hardships, and you can quantum leap because energetically money is energy as well.
Yes.
So doing that identity shift from people pleasing and doing everything for everyone to start attracting that into your life, but it needs the actions. So that's amazing that you shared that, because there's so many people that can invest in the wrong thing, but
Yeah.
it's a future investment that you're doing, not just the present one.
Exactly. And it's protecting yourself and your hard-earned money. I think something for me too, that was a big shift was don't get me wrong, I love my designer bags. Like I'm a huge, specifically secondhand, like designer bag girl. And at the time there was a moment where I was like, I could definitely afford like a couple. And I thought, you know what? I've been working so hard. I'm going to treat myself. But then I would pause and I would ask myself, like, I know I would get the thrill initially. And when I looked around my closet, I thought half these things I actually did spend a couple hundreds on, but I don't feel the same magnetic pull. There's only a handful of clothing items where I'm like, okay, now this tells a story. This reminds me of something amazing. But most of the time I don't. So another big life-changing but small meaningful habit is that if I really want something, I put it on a list. And for 30 days, I wait. And if I still am craving for that one item, then I will purchase it. And that's been huge for me because I started to spend on things that actually aligned with my core values as opposed to
Emotional
the instant
spending.
Yeah, 90% of things people spend are based on emotions. So when you can become resilient and assertive with yourself and your core values and have that decision-making framework, instead of being like, oh, I have this pull to buy something, I'm going to go do it. It's a type of skill you have to train yourself to do. But once you do, you realize you save a lot of money. And that money that could have went to that one material thing that actually doesn't give you joy can be spent maybe on that special dinner for someone that you care about.
Or a good mentor.
Or a good mentor, exactly.
Yeah, which
or in
can
a
buy you
course.
10 bags, guys.
All the money books, personal development books, like you can get so many out there.
Yeah, honestly, the book that came to my mind is Atomic Habits, which is 1% better every single day.
Absolutely.
And the one thing that it gave me the most is that you gotta take small, tiny action, and that will, over time, because your nervous system can get overwhelmed with the amount of things that you're trying to incorporate on your daily basis. So talking about the women right now that are feeling overwhelmed, they feel a lot of fear and stuck around money. And what is the first step that they can take to shift that today? And not just, taking that step that we've talked about certain things, but, feeling overwhelmed with the amount of, for example, that they have, the amount of things that they don't even know what to do with, and mentally, and, it's just a lot of things that are happening in their life. What would you tell them? Or maybe you felt a certain way in your life, you had a situation that was really tough for you, or even these days, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I think it's so funny, the Virgo of me of like, I have all the steps that I would recommend to you. And then there's a part of me that pulls back and goes, we're all human, actually. We're not robots and productivity machines. We got to give ourselves grace. And that would be the first thing, is that a lot of the money beliefs that were put on us were not out of our own decisions. A lot of the times it's how our parents or guardians spent money. And we saw that as the right way growing up. So for example, I have a handful of friends who have parents where they had spending problems. And to them, they thought, well, in order for me to be loved, it's through material things. So I'm going to buy everything for myself when I'm feeling guilty, when I'm not feeling great. And that creates like a shopaholic addiction, right?
And just for the audience who doesn't know what the limiting belief is around money, because a lot of people say limiting belief.
Yeah.
What is the limiting belief and how it affects money before we step into actual limiting beliefs?
That's such a good question. So I know everyone has their own definition of it. The way that I see limiting beliefs is that based on either how you grew up or when you were impressionable at that time, someone else's belief was impressioned onto you. And as you went through life, when you made decisions, you considered their belief to be your own. So you start to make decisions that may not be aligned to what you truly want. And what's interesting is in society, we're not taught to learn what we want. We just go with the flow. We go with those limiting beliefs that may have been put onto us. For example, a really easy one is women, specifically Asian women, for me personally, were made to be quiet. We are made to not say much. And a lot of it stems back from the minority myth from like the 1970s, where it's like being obedient, being silent, and being just like nice is the way to survive through life. So to me, that was a limiting belief. But when I taught myself to stand up and to be assertive and to use my voice as a power. That helped me shed that old limiting belief culturally that I had adapted and around in my other communities. And now I stepped into a life that is based on a truth that I believe in, which is my voice is powerful. I am always enough, and that no one has the power to take that away from me unless I allow them so, specifically my voice. So
Wow.
that would be an example
That's
of a limiting
so
belief.
powerful. That self-talk is everything, guys. I can hear from many successful people, and even in my life, whenever the self-talk that you went through the certain transformation and you felt it, and then you shift as like, wait a second, this is not a fact. You think that money, you have to work really hard. For me and for my culture, because my background, I'm Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And for my culture, money, you have to earn really hard. And my parents were immigrants. I haven't seen them for a very long time, just because the belief was that you have to work really hard and you have to sacrifice a lot in order to have money.
Yeah.
And I lived with that mindset for such a long time. And literally, for me, that was the equal. But then I asked myself, how do millionaires and billionaires have the amount of money and they can still live their lives? Something doesn't add up here. So then you literally, it's like you get out of that cocoon and you open it up and you open that door into the whole world and you realize, oh, it can be different.
Yeah.
And whatever I believe, it's just a belief and a thought, and I can change that.
Yes.
So what would you say, back to the limiting beliefs, the most common limiting beliefs that stop women, men, or people in general from that abundance and stepping into that ease and flow without feeling that anxious and that tiredness of like, okay, I'm done. I just want to enjoy my life, you know?
Yeah. I think something that came to me as you were sharing your story, which by the way, thank you so much, is that I even have it tattooed on me. Thoughts are not facts.
Ooh.
And a lot of the time, those limiting beliefs are the constant thoughts that come in our head that feel intrusive. For example, I can't afford that, or I only buy cheap things. It's the way you talk about money.
Language.
Exactly. So before we even get to the tactical things of building an emergency fund and looking at your bank statement, I always tell girls, and just anybody who asks me, what is your money story right now? So we go through several different questions, starting from what is your earliest memory about money? And I have them write it down because writing to me is a creative and safe outlet.
So go ahead and ask yourself, guys, if you need to pause, just go ahead and literally do that, because I don't want you just to listen to whatever we're saying, but actually applying things into your life. Sorry for interrupting, but I just feel it's so important what you're saying, because the event that we did, I did that, and there's a lot of things that came to me.
Yes.
And I just want them to understand that it's important. Just pause it and then come back to the rest. And you were saying to write it down.
Yes, write it down. And actually, even just to add on to what you said, listen to this back and then re-listen to it after you do the prompt, because something may come up for you based on like how we share our story. Especially when you feel something has resonated, listen to it back and see what emotions came up for you. So you never really know. Some questions, like you said, may trigger something or a memory.
Because something comes up, it's like an opportunity for you to heal it and to become aware of it and to change that. So awareness is the key in this situation.
Exactly. So the first prompt is, what is the earliest memory you've had about money? So a lot of the time people don't even think about that. They're like, what was the first thing I bought? Maybe a toy or something. But sometimes it's actually how they saw someone else spend money. That may be the first thing. And it's like, what did that mean to you? And then the next question we always tell the girls is, how did your mom spend money?
Why mom?
Because typically women run the world of consumerism. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending how you look at it, they're typically the ones spending it.
Okay.
Which is almost ironic because, I mean, if you look at how history goes, usually it's the men that work and then the women that spend. Don't know how I feel about that one, but
and with
changing
credit
it.
cards that you said, I mean, just recently the woman got access to credit cards, and that would explain a lot with limiting beliefs as well. So now that we have more power and earning more, now we have to spend a bit less sometimes.
Yes. And back to your point, for those that don't know, we weren't able to get our own credit card until the 1970s.
So crazy.
Mad.
It's just recent, guys. 1987?
Yeah, I think
86,
74.
or whatever. It's crazy.
It's astronomical. And something I always tell girls too is that we were not allowed to buy property without a male co-signer until only 100 years ago. So I know we were drifting a little bit away, but this is always something that I'm so passionate about. And I think more people, specifically women, need to know is that money is a radical act of self-care when we choose to understand it and manage it. It is an act of liberation for us.
And I remember the event, again, there's so many things that I got out of your event. So guys, check out HS events. It's life-changing. You mentioned that you can be the first woman in your lineage to start learning about money. It can be overwhelming, but you're the first and you're changing the whole lineage after you.
Yes.
And that's life-changing. And that's amazing because you can change the whole trajectory of your life. And yes, it's overwhelming, but you don't need to know all of those fancy terminology right away. You can take one small step, even by watching this video and listening to us and Asia sharing her wisdom with all of us. You can literally learn so much, and that's already a first step. So pat on the back and to realize I love myself enough to actually do that. Right?
Absolutely. And like you said, it's breaking generational trauma, choosing to be financially independent and improve your financial literacy. Like if you think about back when we were in school, I was never taught once about money, debt. I never even paid back my credit cards in high school and university because I didn't know you had to pay them back.
Yeah.
You're
like, oh, extra money.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and my parents were like, you don't pay off your full bill? And I was like, oh, I thought, I just lowered it to like the minimum. And they're like, no. What about your credit score? And I was like, what's a credit score? So back to your point, I think it's so important to have these conversations, and whoever's listening as well, like this is the first step of many. And I'm so glad you brought it back down to earth saying it takes time. I always translate it to physical health. If you've never lifted a weight in your life, if you never did a lunge or a squat before, you don't have the body literacy to understand what's moving. How is a muscle supposed to feel? How's it not supposed to feel? It's the same thing about money. And it takes time to put in your reps, AKA make it a habit to look at your bank account, make it a habit to automate your paycheck into your investment accounts. These aren't things that you learn overnight, but within time when you're making active choices, going back to atomic habits. I know it's this great analogy where it's like every act you do is like a vote for the life you want. So I've taken that and I just literally repackaged it. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the life that you want and that you're designing.
I love that. So every money, every cent you spend is a vote for the life that you want. And every single thing that you do, it's either you do it for the life that you want or you don't want. There's nothing in the middle. And that was the whole concept that you think, oh, just one day, not a big deal. Never miss 2 days in a row. Never. So if you missed one gym day, the next day is like, okay, but then the day after that, make sure you do it. So just because you did one slip up, just because you spent a bit more that week or it doesn't look good, it doesn't mean that you have to go back as it was. You can keep going because it's still, it has value in it, right? And the weight.
And back to what you're saying of like the beginners out there, it's just becoming money conscious, becoming money aware. And that's where those journal prompts come in handy. It's asking not only like, how did your mother spend money? How did your father spend money? And then we go into what behaviors or thoughts have you taken from your parents that you've now noticed in your everyday life?
Unconsciously to conscious.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of the way that we're spending may be telling a story that no longer serves us or no longer is the world that we want to build for ourselves. Because the way that, for me specifically, my parents spent money, if you bought a house, you're probably set for life by now with how the real estate market's going. Whereas now there's this great debate of like, do you put your money in the stock market or do you buy property? And I have a lot of friends that are now house poor. I have some friends that feel chained to their property and they want to go out and do other things, but they have this mortgage that they want to pay off. And by the way, like not all debt is bad debt, but I think it's important to recognize that what worked well for our parents may not work well for us now. And to understand that early as we can so we can reorganize how we want to put that hard-earned money into something that we know is going to have us reap the benefits later on in life. So back to your point though, doing those journal prompts allows you to just simply actually write out what is the money story that I'm living by? And do I agree with this or not? And actually just giving yourself that choice. I can rewrite my money story anytime.
Yes.
Whatever
You
your
have a
parents live
choice.
by,
You have a
exactly,
choice.
is not your future, is not your destiny. It's up to you to decide what that looks like.
That's amazing. So the first one was already
What is the earliest memory you have about money?
then how your mom spends the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then do you have the third one?
So
for
after
that?
you do, you know, how does your father spend money?
And father.
And then your next one is, are there any behaviors or actions or thoughts that you've taken from your parents or your upbringing and you now live to on a day-to-day basis?
So rewriting, basically.
So rewriting, because a lot of the time we do think that our thoughts are facts. So we don't realize that the decisions we're making is actually not aligned to the life that we want. It's in fact the way our parents lived, which may not be as relevant in today's time.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. And I want to share how overcoming the limiting beliefs helped me as well, because how to even become aware of the limiting belief is what you mentioned, is that whenever you spend and you feel that anxiousness around you, or like making money is hard, then okay, I'm aware of that limiting belief. Now I ask myself, is this really true? Where is the evidence of it being true? Because sometimes we make up something in our head, but then we don't even have evidence for it. And when we start looking for the evidence, it's like, wait a second, there are people that make money while they're sleeping. So maybe it's not fully true. So, okay, do I want to continue feeling and believing this? No. What would I rather believe? And then you find the new belief that you every single day remind yourself of. And you start working, thinking, and being as that person who believes in that.
Yeah.
So if that person who gets the paycheck and they make a lot of money, what would that person do with that money? Okay, they would maybe do automatic things like
automating your paychecks to your investment accounts. Yes.
Because I remember that from your page as well, which you have, and you give so much value to your community, which you guys can check out. There's a lot of tools that Azia is giving, and you can literally invest there and think from that nature, and it can help you to embody that version that actually knows what to do, and having people around you that will guide you through that and say like, hey, you know what? I think it's better to do it this way.
I agree. I think one of my favorite books that actually shifted my money, now that I think about it, it's called "You Are a Badass at Making Money."
You're a badass at making money?
I believe that's it. I will quote it properly. We could double check it.
We can link it down below. Yeah.
I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty sure, because that's the second book to "You Are a Badass." That's the second part of her series. And that one's all about mindset. And something that I learned from that, and I read it back in university, it was very, very early on, was that instead of saying, I can't afford that, it's saying, how can I afford that? And it immediately switches in your brain this problem solving skill of like, okay, maybe if I work an extra shift at the restaurant, or I sell a few bit of my clothes that I don't wear, then I can afford enough to get that. Instead of thinking, oh, like I'm too poor, like I can't afford it. It's the way you talk about money.
Yes.
And that was something I actually want to talk to you about on today's episode, was that the way that we have our relationship with money is the same way we have a relationship with our partner or with our friends. It requires effort, communication, and honesty. If you neglect money, if you don't look at the bank account, that builds anxiety, right? Because you're avoiding a lot of what stories you may not want to believe in.
Yeah.
But if you make the commitment every single day to show up for money as if it was a person. I usually like to, like when I was early starting on, try to personify money of like, how can I treat her right? Like, how can I make our energy, our relationship together healthy? Well, one, it's like, how do I treat her? Well, I spend her ridiculously on, like in university at the time, on drinks and like going out and parties and takeout food. That's not really how I want to treat money. I feel like I'm just throwing it around and it's not aligned to my values. But when I started to actually like take intentional time once a week, looking at my budget, asking myself like, does this purchase make me feel good? Does it not? And being honest with myself, that helped me have a better relationship with money and start to become more problem solving of like, how can we work together so we can make more? As opposed to being like, I don't want to talk to you at all. Like, you scare me.
I love that concept a lot because when I wrote to, I was like, how to build the relationship with money, because a lot of people saying, oh, build the relationship with money, and I'm like, what is that? But then I started getting into it. I even wrote a letter to money,
Yes.
asking for forgiveness.
Yes.
And to actually like ask money to come into your life, because if you're spending or there's different attachment styles in the relationships with your
Yes.
partner.
Exactly.
And if you anxious or if you avoidant, why do you think that partner, aka money, would want to come to your life, would want to stay in your life, would want to be there for you if you don't even have respect of knowing how they doing, how are you guys doing, like how are you feeling today, right?
Exactly. Just checking in. And like you said, it's all energy. So if you pour that love into money, it comes back to you. And similar to that sentiment of investment, right? Like a lot of people get scared when it comes to coachings or mentorships, or certain programs are a bit of a higher ticket. Obviously, doing your due diligence and your research is huge. But I think there's something to be said when you prioritize investing in yourself, that you're choosing to spend money, and some may say giving it away to somebody else, knowing it will come back to you tenfold. I think that's the beauty of investing in a mentor who you believe in, that is 10 steps ahead of you, is that you're actually trusting that this money will come back to you, but even more abundantly. As opposed to thinking in a scarcity mindset and not wanting to keep it all the time, right?
I totally agree. And I love what you mentioned about money. There's a reason why it's called spelling, because it's a spell. Money and words, they hold the energy. And whatever you say, whatever music you listen to, everything is energy. And energetically, whatever you say, I can't afford it, or maybe you say, this is not my priority right now.
Yeah.
How we mentioned about that. And talking about the coaching, do you provide any coaching or any tools that you have that would help people in a way of managing their money, investing, or in your community, how people can find you and how they can get help in your field?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So for me, accessibility is always huge when it comes to financial literacy, and then application. I think it's awesome that we have the internet and AI and we can get answers to
bless.
almost like everything whenever we want.
Yes.
But I think are we applying what we're reading? Because a lot of time we can read it and not even understand it. So for me, that's why I have my events, and then I have my planner / like online templates. So for those that aren't able to come to Toronto and actually come to the events and apply and meet other money-minded and money-conscious women who also are on this journey, I do have a DIY investment planner. So something I noticed when I was trying out different budgeting templates was that I never had the psychological aspect of money. I feel like it was a very like, what came in, what came out. Okay, cool. Emergency fund. Okay, great. Like, here are some ideas of how to allocate your investments. For me, a lot of what we talked about, I think, is the first step when it comes to understanding how can I have a better relationship with money, and then asking yourself, how can I make more money? I think that order is very important. So in my DIY investment planner, again, it's just like a normal Google spreadsheet. You first actually go through the prompts that we talked about, where you have to look within first and ask yourself, why am I spending money the way that I am? What is the earliest memory I have about money? Do I believe in these things? What's the goal life that I want? And back to your point of every dollar you spend is a vote for your life that you want. Based on my past 3 to 6 bank statements, is this the life that my future me would be living? Is this how they would be spending the money? Or no?
Biggest investor in Uber Eats.
Yeah, exactly. Just Uber Eats.
I'm an investor.
Actually, something really good is Too Good to Go. Have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, so
What's
Too
that?
Good to Go, I believe they're Canadian, but the whole concept comes from, you know how restaurants, sometimes they make too much food, or there's a lot of leftover food.
Yes.
And typically it just goes to waste. So what they do is that for a reduced price, just like Uber Eats, you can go on the app and shop for like, groceries, or like maybe it's baked goods, or maybe it's actually like a meal from your favorite restaurant.
Say it again.
And you
How
get
it's
to do the
called?
order. Too Good to Go.
Too Good to Go.
Yep.
That's
10 out of
nice.
10. So it's sustainable. It's good for the environment because they're trying to reduce food waste. And it's cheaper for both groceries as well as like if you want that sweet treat or a certain takeaway. A lot of restaurants are coming on board to that type
That's
of
awesome.
program.
Thanks for sharing that. I feel
Yeah.
like that's what the community is about,
Yes.
guys. When you just sitting there and you go to events like this, you don't just go to the event, you go to see like-minded people that have similar goals, and some people that are at the same stage as you, some people have worse than you and getting out of debt, and some people already investing. But being around those people and normalizing talking about money, normalizing
Yes.
that, yes, I am in debt, for example. Yes, I am there. And removing that shame and just saying, yes, I am there, but how do I get out of it? Because your brain cannot think of the same things or two things at the same time. You can either think about the debt or how to get out of it. And that focus that you shift can change your whole trajectory. And same, I cannot afford it, to how can I afford it? And that is so valuable because that shift of focus can change your whole life. So thank you for sharing that, because it's a lot. And another thing that comes to my mind is moving your body. I can see a lot that you are moving your body. You're the gym girl. I love that because, it's a big part. And I've heard, I don't know if it's a myth or not, before the last question that we're going to ask. Do you notice the correlation between you doing like moving your body physically and moving your energy, which is also a big thing, and making money? Do you have that correlation? Would you make that correlation, or some advice for people?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I know a lot of people have their own takes on it. My personal take is I think both of them go hand in hand. There's this age-old saying where it's like someone could spend their entire 20s all the way through their 40s like making millions and millions of dollars. Some would argue that's the dream life, like the big house, the beautiful cars. But at the end of the day, a lot of the time they think, okay, but I've no one to spend this money with. And two, my body's not even healthy to do anything. I can't even go traveling anymore. Like I can't move the way I do because
the sacrifice for the other things.
Exactly. I was so static at the desk all the time. I never bothered to like check in about how my family or friends were doing as I was grinding up the ladder. And I think a lot of time we always think finances and financial health is in this silo. But as I said earlier, it's just as important as our emotional and physical health, because it's all connected at the end of the day. So to me, I personally find I have more energy throughout the day because I prioritize movement. I actually was just at my physio today.
That's it.
And, I had asked in the debate, I was like, everyone's talking about this epidemic with poor posture. We're all slouching. We're looking at our phones, hunchbacked. I was like, what are your honest thoughts? Like, should I be like buying something for my posture? Because I know, unfortunately, how I make a lot of my money is sitting down at my laptop connected to internet. And he said, in this society, it would be impossible to say, always have a great posture. And he's like, it's funny because people are buying these standing desks now and they think, oh, like this is so much better for my body. And he's like, however, actually there comes implications, unfortunate ones, and issues with the muscles if we're just standing all the time. So I was like, okay, you can't win if you're slouching and sitting. You can't win if you're standing.
Just lay down and take a nap.
Yeah, I was like, should we just sleep, like lay on our back the whole time? And he's like, well, the implications of that too. And I was like, so what's the magic recipe? And he's like, actually, Asia, it's just movement. He's like, it's just not being static for too long of a period. If you're sitting down at the computer or laptop, at least like every hour, 2 hours. If you're standing, go for a walk. Go outside, do some squats, some stretches. There's so many of those types of things on YouTube you can find. But he's like, movement helps improve blood circulation in the body. And if you think of just like mental clarity as well, you release serotonin, you move better, and also contributes to longevity when you do strength training because you're protecting the muscles and the joints. So for me anyways, I'm someone who, yes, wants to retire early, but I also want to have a healthy, able body so I can continue this fruitful and beautiful life that I've built for myself.
Yeah.
And the earlier you are when it comes to setting that foundation for your fitness, the easier it is for your body to get used to it as you get older.
Exactly.
So I always tell people, and it's so funny, a lot of my friends who have hit that like 7-8 figure net worth, they're now suddenly prioritizing health. Like all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I hired a PT and I'm going to the gym now. I'm a regular. And I was like, what was the shift? And they were like, well, when I get older, like I actually want to enjoy the life that I made.
That's it.
So I so agree. I think they go hand in hand, because if not, when you make it to the top, it's a very lonely and sad road if you have no one to spend it with. And then also a body that's capable of just doing the everyday functions.
Yeah, and that can be a limiting belief that you have to sacrifice and you have to be a lone wolf and you have to work hard and you have to sacrifice your health and your friends and not have the partner. you can have it all,
Mm-hmm.
just not all at the same time, but you can do your best to do that, because in the long term, you're actually investing, because it's all an investment. And that
Exactly.
delayed gratitude and gratification, I'd say, it's what is going to make it or break it, because you're doing it for your future self, and think, would that highest version of me do this?
Yeah.
Or what would she do? Because you won't always have that motivation to go,
Yeah.
but that discipline and that self-love to say, I love myself enough to do it for me today.
Yes. Stop
know?
being a victim to the situation.
That's it.
That is the biggest thing. Like back to our conversation about limiting beliefs. Stop being a victim to things that were out of control. One of my biggest quotes that I truly live by, if I could get this tattooed on me, I would, but I already have a lot of quotes on me. So I've kind of taken a break from that. But trauma is not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Trauma is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
I love that.
To me, like that really woke me up, because, and as anyone could say, like you're born into this world with some things that aren't in your favor and some things that are, but it's up to you to decide what you do with it.
I love that. I love that phrase, because usually at the end of the podcast, I always ask the guests to share their piece of wisdom, quote, or the saying that they either live by or help them to change in a way. Would that be the quote for you, or the phrase?
I would say that the thoughts are not facts. Those are two of my like core life principles that I live by. And it's choosing, again, not to be a victim to life, but being proactive, having a high sense of agency and autonomy with yourself.
Yeah, I love that, because you're not what happened to you. You are who you choose to believe in and who you choose to be. And you always have a choice to change things around.
Yes.
And you don't have to always stay in the environment that you are in. When sitting and complaining and doing the things didn't work out for you and still there, you got to start doing new things.
Yeah.
You got to start doing something else. And thank you so much for sharing that. That was such a big help just to realize the mindset shifts. And I hope for the audience that watching this, they had that opportunity to see money from a different point, no longer see it as something to be scared of and anxious, but to actually make your bestie and make the friends and look at that as their relationship, and look at the limiting beliefs and becoming aware. It's already the first step, and coming into the community that can help you out, because I truly believe that whoever you surround yourself with, you will become. So become that person. And if you don't have people around you physically, there's so many people online, even watching the videos and having that internet, use it to your advantage. Don't use it for scrolling. Just if you scroll with the good things, but also act. Act on it, because action is the one that literally changed my life. I was for so long in this, mentality, victim mentality, that I would think about a lot of things that I don't like and complain. But then I was like, okay, nothing is changing in my life. So what can I do today? And every single day, one small action that gets me to the life and the vote to the life that I want, which is so amazing. Yeah, thank you so much, Azia. And I do have what I usually do with my guests, a message from the universe.
I love this.
There's a, from 1 to 100, name me any number and I will give you whatever message you meant to hear right now, whatever number.
A number came to me already as you were speaking, 77.
77. Ooh, 7. It's such a strong number. All right, 77. You don't need to rush your healing to be worthy.
Oh, I like that one.
What comes to you when you heard that, if you don't mind sharing? You don't need to rush your healing to be worthy.
I think for me specifically, I'm at a place in 2026 where I have a system in place that, it's going to sound very Virgo of me, controls my inputs. That controls my inputs. So I'm a very goal-oriented person. I think that's what comes with what you said when you choose to no longer be a victim and you're very proactive about the things that you do, who you surround yourself with, and it's this like life high you get on, and it's like this rush, and suddenly you find yourself on the go all the time. You're like, I need to see so-and-so to do this project. I'm going to go here and do this. And you have so many like swirling ideas that sometimes I feel like I'm rushing myself through the process and I'm not thoroughly enjoying it. So the inputs I put in place is actually a lot of stillness, moments of being quiet. And as opposed to asking the universe for something, it's actually just saying, I'm exactly where I need to be right now. And that's what's perfect and enough. So back to your point of what came to you, here's reminding myself that like it's not always about the numbers of checking off all the things off the boxes, but purely like it will happen. It already is happening. So lean into that as opposed to the urgency.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And for me, it came, be patient with becoming someone who you've never been before.
I like that.
You know, so many times that we're rushing through things and becoming impatient or so rough on ourselves because we made a mistake. We didn't do that. Or why did I get myself in that debt? Or why didn't I invest earlier? But it's never too late to invest. Another thing that you preaching, girls, it's never too late to start. And you can always start. You know, the best time was to start maybe yesterday or a year ago, but the second best time is today.
Yeah.
So just do it today and be patient with yourself, loving and not chasing always, and just, you know, being present and listening to your body, what you truly need. Because sometimes we don't need that next podcast, watching a lot of things. Maybe all we need is just to be with ourselves and be in silence. So that's such an important topic that you chose. Thank you so much for sharing that and for all of the wisdom that you shared and for your time, because it truly can change lives. So guys, go ahead and check out Azia, her daily invest, and just know that you were meant to hear this and take it as your sign that it's time. 2026, guys. No more tomorrow. Start today. and they can find you on TikTok, on Instagram. I'll link everything below. And go ahead and check it out, guys. And follow, of course, follow. And like, so more people can hear about this, and share with more people that you believe is going to help to change their life. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun.
Yes. Thank you guys for joining me on the Worthy Podcast. Keep shining, stay true, and remember, you are always worthy. Hit subscribe and join me on this journey, because your highest self is waiting. See you next time.